another very short tour of this. But if you want the long tour, let's get this up to 4 likes, guys. Hopefully it doesn't cut out. If it does, I will literally be mad. But the Titanic was a sad film.
Titanic VR guided tour. We are currently 3.8 kilometres below the surface of the North Atlantic and 100 metres east of the bow. This submersible is on autopilot. However, you can adjust your spotlight using the far left lever. Please keep your arms and legs inside the vehicle at all times. I'll provide you with information about locations as we pass them, so please sit back, relax and enjoy the ride. The RMS Titanic was the second White Star Line Olympic-class ocean liner, the first being RMS Olympic and the third being HMHS Britannic. She was 269 metres long, 28 metres wide and 72 metres tall from the bottom of her keel to the top of her masts. At 46,328 tonnes, she was the largest ship built at the time, being only slightly bigger than Olympic. She would be servicing the transatlantic route, a journey from Southampton, England to New York, USA. She stops at Cherbourg, France and Queenstown, Ireland. After departing Queenstown on the afternoon of Thursday, the 11th of April, RMS Titanic began her 5,360 kilometre journey to New York City. She was due to arrive in the early hours of Wednesday, the 17th of April, but with calm ocean conditions and good weather, it was possible she could arrive early on Tuesday evening instead.
Look at this, guys. Such a beautiful ship.
The night of the 14th of April was moonless and a light fog was developing on the horizon. Titanic's captain, Edward Smith, had received a number of ice warnings during the day and had changed their course so they were further south to avoid the affected areas. The captain retired to bed and First Officer William Murdoch took charge of the bridge as officer of the watch. Titanic steamed ahead until 11:40 p.m. when the lookouts Frederick Fleet and Reginald Lee spotted an iceberg directly ahead. Fleet rang the warning bell 3 times to indicate an obstacle ahead and phoned the bridge. Murdoch gave the order, hard a starboard, and the ship turned to port, but it was too late. Titanic struck the iceberg on her starboard side. The impact buckled hull plates and sheared rivets, revealing her first 6 compartments to the ocean. As the iceberg slid down the side of the ship, Murdoch ordered a hard a port, swinging a Titanic stern out of the path of the iceberg. He also closed the watertight doors, isolating the flooding to those damaged compartments. The forward 3 hatches, along with the peak tank and boiler rooms 5 and 6, were breached. After the collision, RMS Titanic stopped and almost immediately took a starboard list. The captain organised a group to inspect the damage and ordered the carpenter, John Maxwell, to sound the ship. Chief designer Thomas Andrews knew the volume of each breached compartment and calculated that the initial flooding rate was around 15,000 tonnes within the first 40 minutes. With this information, he estimated Titanic would sink within 90 minutes. He then informed the captain, who then ordered the officers to begin preparing the lifeboats. All free seamen were sent up to the boat deck to begin pulling the covers off the lifeboats and to collect lanterns, blankets, food and water for the passengers. Passengers were woken by their stewards and told to put on their life belts and head up to the boat deck.
As what we see.
Titanic carried just 20 lifeboats, 4 more than required by the regulations outlined by the British Board of Trade. There were 14 regular wooden lifeboats, 2 smaller cutters and 4 Engelhart collapsible boats. The total capacity of these lifeboats was only 1,178 people, far less than the total on board. This fact must have weighed heavily on the captain's mind, as he specified the boats to be filled with women and children first. Just over an hour after the collision, the first lifeboat left the sinking ship. To convince women to leave, officers tried assuring them it was only a precaution, that they would be back on board by daylight. First Officer Murdoch filled the starboard side, while Second Officer Charles Lightoller filled port. The officers interpreted the captain's women and children first order differently, with Murdoch putting men into the boats after all the women and children near the boat had entered. Lightoller, on the other hand, only allowed women and children to enter the boats and refused all men and boys over 14 years old. By 1:45 a.m, Titanic was down by about 5 degrees to the head, with the forecastle almost underwater. Panic began to rise through the passengers still on deck as they watched boat after boat launch. A few male passengers were physically removed from stern portside lifeboats 14 and 16, and Fifth Officer Harold Lowe warned other men not to approach by firing his pistol into the water below. The situation at the starboard bow was similar, with a group of men storming Collapsible C. Murdoch fired his pistol twice to warn them to move back from the lifeboat, and they were dragged out by other male passengers. A large group of third-class women and children took their place, along with a few seamen and the owner of White Star Line, Joseph Bruce Ismay. In the radio room, Titanic's Marconi operators were desperately communicating with nearby stations and ships. Throughout the night, senior operator Jack Phillips worked the 5-kilowatt Marconi wireless radio set to send out distress signals using both the old CQD and new SOS call codes. He alerted nearby ships to their position and status, and received updates of ship locations and estimated arrival times. Junior operator Harold Bride took these updates to Captain Smith and passed the captain's responses back to Phillips for transmission. RMS Carpathia radio operator Harold Cotton was off duty and about to go to bed when he decided to listen in to the nightly news from Cape Cod. Operators there mentioned they had ice warnings for Titanic, and Cotton decided to pass on the message. He was surprised when Phillips responded to his call with a CQD and gave Titanic's location. Cotton immediately took the message to Carpathia's captain, Arthur Rostron, who ordered all hands on deck and told Cotton to let Titanic know they were on their way. As the water reached the boat deck, the operators left their station, with Bride heading towards the port bow and Phillips to the starboard stern. Murdoch and Sixth Officer James Moody were standing on the starboard side, loading Collapsible A into the davits. Lightoller was on the officers' quarters rooftop, removing Collapsible B, when the bridge suddenly ducked under the surface. Waves washed over the decks, carrying people and the collapsible lifeboats into the ocean. The forward funnel collapsed at its base, with the resulting wave crushing the starboard bridge wing and those swimming in the water nearby. The stern rose out of the water, peaking at an angle of around 15 degrees. This placed stress on Titanic's keel, which buckled and twisted, tearing the ship in half and sending the waterlogged bow plummeting to the ocean floor. The tear wasn't clean, with decks failing to hold on at varying positions. The stern, now rapidly filling with water, bobbed on the surface for a few minutes before slipping under. RMS Titanic was carrying an estimated 2,208 passengers and crew, with only 712 surviving the disaster. Those who survived spent the night floating in darkness until RMS Carpathia arrived around 4 a.m. Captain Rostron had pushed the Cunard liner to break her speed record, but it wasn't enough. Titanic had sunk before Carpathia arrived, and they found 20 lifeboats at Titanic's location. Unfortunately, the exact number of victims is unknown, as there were many last-minute ticket purchases and cancellations, and that documentation was lost along with the ship. Of the 1,317 known passengers, over half were travelling third class or steerage as it was known. These passengers couldn't access the boat deck without entering second class or crew areas, meaning many were unaware how to get to the lifeboats and escape the sinking ship. First and second class passengers had no issues making their way to the boat deck, as staircases provided both classes direct access. Many expeditions to find and raise the wreck were proposed over the years, with the exact location of her wreck being unknown. Titanic's coordinates sent out in distress on the night of the accident had been incorrect. On the 1st of September 1985, a Canadian-French team were searching the area when Dr. Robert Ballard came across some small debris. He followed the trail which led him to a boiler and eventually the wreck. His discovery confirmed suspicions that Titanic had in fact split and there was no hope of raising the wreck as a whole. Scientists and historians have long argued for and against the recovery of artefacts from the site, with many agreeing the site should be treated as a mass grave. Although it's predicted Titanic's wreck will disintegrate within the next 20 years, her story will intrigue generations to come.
Wow. That was only the short part, guys. Let's get into it properly, where I can actually be able to steer this. Well, hopefully I can. Which we can fully explore this magnificent ship, which unfortunately did not make it past one night. I mean 2 nights, sorry. Because the next day, well, 1912 was when it Thankfully, Titanic struck an iceberg for 2 hours and 40 minutes. In 1985, that's when it's been found.
Excited? Yeah, I've seen all the footage, but I mean, it's different to be so close to her.
Ever done anything like this before?
Yeah, Bismarck as a grad student, and Lusitania on vacation a couple of years back.
Hell of a resume.
So then...
Alright, I've reached the seabed. Can't see much.
You're still a couple of 100 meters out, and back to manual control. Shall we run an equipment test?
Sure, let's do this by the book.
Alright, let's run through the controls on the panel in front of you. The center left joystick allows you to move the submersible forward, back, left, and right. The center right joystick controls the yaw, letting you rotate left and right. Try them out now. Great! Now let's check the altitude controls. The lever on the far right allows you to...
Okay.
If you look down at your hands, you can see your motion controllers. The move button on your left controller is the info button. Holding down the info button will bring up the control diagram for your controllers. If it feels more comfortable, you can operate the submersible using these controls instead of physically moving the levers.
Great. How do I interact with objects?
You can interact with objects in the submersible by touching the object with your controller and then pressing the T button to use. If you ever get stuck, just hold down the info button again to bring up the controls diagram.
Will do.
Right, now we'll move on to the map and missions. You'll see in the middle of the console in front of you is a map. It shows your current location as a blue pointer at the bottom of the screen. As you approach the wreck, it will slowly appear on the map. The yellow icon is your current goal location, so you know where you should be heading. I'll update the map and your goal locations as we go through contracts.
Right.
The screen just to the left of the console displays the mission log. It shows your current goal task. So if you aren't sure what you should be doing or looking for, check the mission log and map for more information.
Got it.
Okay, you'd better place a marker before we head too far.
Right, I should get my lights
Interact
ready
with the
now
button
that I'm
next
getting
to the
close
map
to the
to
bow.
place one.
Marker's been
The
placed.
far left lever control. You can head towards the bow. So, I had a call from our main sponsor.
Problem?
So, why are we...
No, all fine.
Right
Just
now.
voicing her excitement about us finally diving. Said she's looking forward to seeing what we can do. I've set up a call for 8 p.m. this evening.
Maybe
Whoa.
guys.
There's something you don't see every day.
She's a beauty.
There it is.
Okay, first things first. We've got a contract with the Titanic Society to place their commemorative plaque on the forecastle deck. Get yourself into position.
All right.
Oh, okay.
Coming up to it now. Ah, the ROV.
Yep, courtesy of Flight Avionics and the latest in augmented reality technology. If you look up, you'll find a set of VR goggles and a control panel. The controls to maneuver the Predator are the same as the submersible. Make your way over to the plaques already laying on the deck, and remember that the range is only up to 15 meters. The advantage of driving without an umbilical.
Is there any way to boost the signal?
Yeah, but we need to upgrade the deep-sea transmitter, and they don't come cheap. The generosity of our sponsors and UNS funding only goes so far. If we complete these contract jobs, we might just be able to afford some upgrades.
What happens if I go out of range?
The automatic recall kicks in. ROV comes straight back to the sub.
I'm here.
Great. The plaque we're placing is in the Predator's inventory. You can access it through the menu.
Ah, how do I open the menu?
You can open the menu by pressing and releasing the info button.
Hello, Magic.
While in the menu, you can check your map and mission log and access the inventory. To interact with items in the inventory, use the laser pointer to highlight the item and press the T button to select.
Oh shoot, that's the wrong button.
Okay, I'll place the plaque down on top of the flashing beacon. I'll take a photograph with the onboard camera for the Society.
Great idea. They'll appreciate that. You can access the camera through the ROV inventory. Open up the menu again and select the camera icon from the
Press one of the T buttons to take a photograph. You can get out of camera mode by pressing and... No need. Just press the move button on your right.
Now you're back in the sub. Recall the ROV by pressing the button next to the ROV goggles. It's above you on the right.
Where to now?
Hull breach on E-deck. I'll mark it on your map.
We're heading for his cabin, right?
That's right. Eyewitness testimony said Henderson kept a journal. Dr. Lynch,
Yeah?
why are we doing this?
$45,000 a day at sea.
No, I know, but that just about covers the costs of the expedition. I meant, like, why are we taking this job in particular?
Well, put it this way. Why do you think she hired us?
Because we're academics?
Yes, but more specifically, we respect the history. It would have been cheaper for our sponsor to just hire a salvage team.
And why'd you agree to take it?
Funding like this comes once in a blue moon, and I wanted to see her up close.
Guys, look at this. She's beautiful.
This breach is from the impact with the ocean floor. Anything in here is going to be messy.
I'll keep my eyes peeled.
It's towards the top of the breach. Look for the flashing beacon. I really hope his briefcase is there.
I found a briefcase. I just need to pick it up by holding down one of the T buttons to interact. WJH. I think this is it.
Well, that's lucky. Are you going to open it?
No, not here. Assuming there's anything intact in there, it'll start degrading as soon as I open the case.
Activate
I'll
the
have to bring it back to the
autopilot and
lab
get
before we can
comfortable.
take a peek. Alright, I'll see you in about 2 hours.
But guys, the Titanic though, aren't you seeing it in VR? That's just amazing. But imagine seeing it with your own eyes though. Like, actually, in one of these submarines. I know it's kind of impossible, because it's in the aquatic ocean.
Whoa, looks to be in good condition.
Let's get this cleaned up. This journal is pretty special. The pages seem to be a fabric paper blend. The silver doesn't look great after being in. These banknotes are delicate and will need a good rinsing in the desalination bath. Then we can treat them in the funk. This leather case is looking pretty sturdy, but it will need a good soaking in the desal tub to remove the salt. Then I can give it a gentle scrub with the nylon brush.
It's not ready.
Now it's clean, it needs to be soaked in PEG and fungicide to soften the leather and stop it from cracking. Alright, it's ready for freeze drying.
These guys should be overheated.
It's come up great. Looks like a receipt for a telegraph sent on the night of April 14th.
That's strange. I haven't found any reference to one being sent. I wonder what it said. Here's our sponsor. We can tell her the news.
Hi, team. How are you both?
Hi, Gillian. We're doing great.
We've just finished cleaning the artifacts we found today. We managed to access Henderson's cabin and retrieve his briefcase.
Wonderful.
Inside, we found his journal, a few personal items still in good condition. One interesting item is a receipt for a telegraph sent on the night of the sinking.
Oh, that is interesting. I didn't know William sent a message.
That's what we thought.
It's possible it wasn't sent, and that it's still in either the purser's office or the Marconi room. We're thinking our next dive should be to explore these rooms.
I know teams have searched the Marconi room before, but I didn't think the purser's office was accessible.
Yeah, up till now it's been off limits due to the size of ROVs, but ours is small enough to access it. We're hoping we might find the purser's record book, with the message listed.
As for the Marconi room, other dives have shown most of the furniture is deteriorated, but the telegraph canisters might have survived.
Sounds plausible. Let me know if you find anything. I'd love to see the message he sent. I've only the letters from Southampton.
I noticed something odd in his journal. On the 14th he mentions carrying some special package, but I'm sure he didn't have anything reported in the manifest. Do you have any idea what it could be?
Well, in his last letter, he wrote about returning home with a present for my great-grandmother. I'll do a bit of research on my end. I can check over the manifest again to see if we missed anything.
Great, we'll let you know if we find anything tomorrow. I'm sending over photos of the items we found today.
Thanks, I really appreciate the regular updates. It's making
Bone
writing
hair
much
comb.
easier.
I'll need
We'll
to
talk
wash the
again
salt
soon.
out quickly. Well, shall we call it a day?
Not quite. Gillian was kind enough to order in a stronger transmitter for our ROV. We'll need to fit it before the dive tomorrow. Otherwise, we won't be able to reach
It's
the
ready for
purser's
drying in the
office.
acetone bath. I'll get on it now then.
It's waiting for you over there.
Thanks. I need to replace the transmitter in the ROV with the one on the table next to it. The instructions for replacement are on the posters behind the ROV rack, and I can access the lower sections of the ROV by lifting the rack bar up. She's all ready to go for tomorrow.
Cool. I'll see you in the morning then.
Let's go back into the submarine.
Radio check, Wilson.
Coming in nice and clear, Dr. Lynch.
Great. First up is the purser's office on C deck, correct?
Correct. To access it, you'll need to head down through the hole where the forward grand staircase was. I'll mark it on your map.
The C deck is pretty compressed from what I've heard.
Yeah, the impact with the sea floor bent most of the supporting pillars, so they're struggling with the weight of the floors above.
With the rate of decay increasing, it won't be long before it all collapses. I'm glad we've had a chance to come down here and see it for ourselves before all this becomes inaccessible.
So basically, I'm going to.
And she was sinking fast then. And all of a sudden she lifted up quickly and you could hear everything crashing through her. Everything that was movable was going through her. And then she went down and seemed to come up again. So I thought, well, now I'm going to leave. And I was hanging on to a board. We had two boards, starboard and port, which said, keep clear of propeller blades. And I was hanging on to one of these, and I was getting higher and higher in the air. And I thought, well, now I'll go. And I dropped in. I had a lifeboat on. And I hit the water with a terrific crack. Luckily, I didn't hit anything when I dropped in. There were bodies all over the place. And then I looked up at the Titanic. The propellers were right out of water. The rudder was right out. You could see the bottom. And then gradually she glided away, and that was that. That was the last of the Titanic. I didn't want to die. I mean, I didn't see much chance of living, but I was gradually getting frozen up. And by the grace of God, I came across a lifeboat, and they pulled me in.
Wow, so basically, he was one of the survivors.
You'll need to be careful of debris when descending with the Predator. It might make it easier if you position your sub so the lights shine down the void.
Good idea. Deploying Predator, starting to descend.
Oh, wow, look at the jellyfish. One-way jellyfish.
Here we are.
Great. The purser's office and inquiry desk are on the starboard side. You'll need to go over the desk to get into the side room.
Right, I'm here.
The office is to the left as you enter. Be careful. This area hasn't been explored before. We don't know what we'll find in here.
To think the last person in this room would have been Chief Purser McElroy.
The record book would have been kept in a leather pouch.
I don't see it here.
Maybe try the safe back out in the inquiry office.
The doors are rusted shut. We can't check inside.
Is the pouch among the debris?
No, I can't see the leather pouch anywhere. We might be out of luck.
That's a shame.
We'll have to hope the Marconi room gives us some answers.
While we're here, we should collect a sample of the rust on the safe doors. NCPA regularly check for new species of bacteria living in rusticles, and I'm sure they'll want a sample of this.
I'll take a photograph of the scene too. They'll need to see the rustical formations as well. Done. We'd better move on to the Marconi room.
I'll mark it on your map. You'll need to head back to the sub to get there. The Marconi room isn't too far from here, just between the first funnel and your current position.
How do I get in?
Either through the skylight or the corridors. Up to you which you feel is safer.
Right, I don't want to damage the wreck. Or the ROV.
This is the elevator. Okay. I think that might be one purpose. I'm somewhere in the wrong area. colors. Oh wow. Oh, that's rock too.
Oh man, there really isn't much left here, is there?
No, not really. Most of the furniture was wood, so it's almost all deteriorated.
There's a lot of debris on the ground, and a few broken canisters.
Oh shoot. What's wrong part? It's this one.
Alright, just 3 canisters left to collect. 2 more to go.
Ah, that's it. So just collect the canisters. Okay.
I'll grab the last one. Right, I've got all the canisters. Alright, heading back up now.
See you soon, Doctor.
That taking a little bit of time. What should do?
These brass canisters will need a good scrub in fresh water. It'll stop them from oxidizing when they dry.